And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hello, I'm National Weather Service Meteorologist Peter Chan, and this is your Alaska Aviation Weather Outlook on Sunday, July 6, 2025. And there's a fair number of things going on as of this Sunday later morning. We have general area of weak low pressure with a front pushing up along the Gulf Coast toward the Panhandle. This is going to bring areas of rain and rain showers along the Gulf Coast and especially into the Panhandle as we go through today and tonight, Monday morning. Meanwhile, back to the west, we still have some IFR conditions that will be present Monday morning. And there is a low that's passing just south of the central Aleutians. It'll maybe come up into the central Aleutians, and then that energy is going to kind of split off, one piece going into the southeast corner of the Bering, another piece going up into the Gulf mid and late week. That'll bring another system that's going to bring some moderate to heavier rain to the Panhandle come, say, later Thursday into Friday. But in the meantime, we do have some rain up here into the western Gulf, and again, also an area of rain and rain showers, mainly moderate rain that'll be pushing into the Panhandle this Sunday evening and into Monday. Up in the far north, IFR conditions are expected Monday morning along the Arctic coast, and there is a cold front that will be pushing southward through the Brooks Range and Bering Strait. This is going to bring about a big change in temperatures. We had this very strong mid and upper level ridge residing right over the North Slope and Brooks Range late last week through the weekend, but that feature is breaking down now, allowing for the cold front to sweep south-southeastward early in the week. Now, Monday afternoon, still some warmer temperatures on the south slope of the Brooks Range ahead of that front, and the potential for some widely scattered to scattered thunderstorms all throughout the central interior, which could enhance the risk of a few new fire starts. Plenty of smoke across areas of the interior, especially in the vicinity of these active fires and fire complexes, so be aware of reduced visibility. And as far as along the Gulf Coast, generally MVFR conditions and showers along Panhandle, with maybe IFR conditions up along the intercoastal mountains there butting up to British Columbia, and IFR conditions between Utqiagvik and Demarcation Bay, just along and off of the Beaufort Sea coast. We also find some IFR conditions across the lower Bering and especially back toward the western central Aleutians. Now, Tuesday morning, we do anticipate rather widespread IFR conditions across the Panhandle Gulf up into the southeast mainland, Alaska Range, spilling over in the Tanana Valley, and could even be a couple of ongoing areas of some showers and thunderstorms, because this front is going to be pushing south and then kind of stalling out. Otherwise, IFR along the North Slope, spine of the Brooks Range, Arctic coast, Chukchi Sea coast through the Bering Strait, southwest coast, Kuskokwim, Bristol Bays, and all along the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutian chain. By Tuesday afternoon, still could see isolated storm popping up around in the vicinity there, Fairbanks area up through the middle Tanana Valley. Generally MVFR conditions with some lingering showers potentially across parts of the Panhandle and along the Gulf Coast, but not as prevalent as what we're expecting for this Sunday night into Monday. And again, as I'm hinting at, there's going to be this other low that kind of comes up over the central Aleutians. Not that strong, but the energy is going to split, one piece going into the southeast corner of the Bering, the other pulling into the Gulf, and that is going to bring a round of enhanced rainfall, moderate to locally heavy rain to the Panhandle as we get into later Thursday and early Friday. And we do expect colder air to be pushed southward across the Arctic coast, North Slope, and Brooks Range. In fact, there could be some snow showers developing by Tuesday morning along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and especially up in along the higher elevations of the central eastern Brooks Range. In fact, there could be some areas of isolated IFR there, especially early Tuesday morning. So passes on Monday, Anaktuvik Pass, still VFR. There could be a thunderstorm develop in vicinity south of the south entrance. Same thing, Atigan Pass. We're looking at VFR conditions for Monday, but again, a shower thunderstorm could develop in the vicinity of the southern end of the pass and as you fly further south. Lake Clark and Merrill should just generally see marginal visual flight rules throughout Monday. Same thing, Rainy Pass as we round up to Windy Pass and VFR as well. And on the other side, as you go northwest of the north entrance, could be a scattered shower thunderstorm develop in vicinity during the afternoon. Isabel Pass, generally MVFR conditions expected there on Monday. And Mentasta Pass may hold on to VFR conditions through the bulk of the pass, but as you get south into the Copper River Basin, you'll likely encounter some MVFR conditions. Tanita Pass, generally MVFR for Monday. Same thing, Portage Pass, marginal visual flight rules expected there on Monday. And then in the north end of the Panhandle, Chilkoot and White looks to be IFR throughout the day. And we can kind of see how things are shaping up in terms of the freezing levels at the surface and aloft, kind of give a hint of what's going on, not just at the surface, but in mid-levels of the atmosphere. So we've had this cooler pool of air aloft, indicative of low pressure over the Bering. That has shifted eastward now to be up over the Gulf and along the Gulf Coast. In fact, areas here, the Wrangell Mountains, you got freezing levels, down to 2,000 feet locally, higher terrain. But generally speaking, over the Gulf, freezing levels have fallen below 6,000 feet, and there's a weak low circulation with the front pulling up into the Panhandle. That's what's helping to drive the feed of moisture in areas of rain and rain showers along the Gulf Coast, Panhandle especially, as we get into later this Sunday and into the day on Monday. Further north, we're getting pinched out here. 10,000-foot freezing levels aloft are still residing over the Brooks Range for this Sunday night into Monday morning. The cold front is going to be coming in from the north and west. And it kind of does it in a sneaky fashion. It's not like a really abrupt, sharp, what we'd say the frontal slope is not that sharp. It's kind of oozing in. But you can see temperatures near freezing along the Beaufort Sea coast early Monday morning. And as the colder air arrives, especially by Tuesday, you will see this further shrink or disappear. Now, where there is some precipitation with the areas of rain and rain showers along the Gulf Coast and the Panhandle, we do anticipate there could be some pockets of moderate icing above 10,000 feet, also back toward the Copper River and Alaska Range, because this pattern will also facilitate some scattered showers in areas of south central along and south of the Alaska Range. And then to the north, we will find potential for some showers as well along the central eastern Brooks Range. And again, freezing levels are still relatively high on Monday, though they will be falling in the north above 10,000 feet in that area. Then way out here, isolated, maybe some moderate icing near and north of the central Aleutians with that other area of low pressure generally above 12,000 feet. So here is the upper level jet stream circulation at 30,000 feet. Clearly we have the upper level low. We have a wind max to 95 knots coming in there around, it looks like just south of Sitka. And then we have the jet core of 120 knots in the North Pacific, well south of the Gulf. And then behind me, we have that other low circulation with 115 knot jet max just west-southwest of the western Aleutians. But here you can see the hints of that front northwest flow to 65 knots off the Lisburn Peninsula. As we bring it down to 9,000 feet, we can see the hints of a trough here at mid-levels, which is a reflection. The surface cold front will be out a little ahead of that. And we have winds aloft 35, 40 knots there near the lower Chukchi Sea Bering Strait. The low out in the western Aleutians, generally east-southeast flow into the central Aleutians, anywhere from 40 to isolated 50 knots. South of the Aleutians flow generally out of the west-northwest. And then as I step aside, we have the circulation, broad low-pressure circulation in the mid-levels over the Gulf. And strongest winds, there's a core of winds 40 to 55 knots coming up out of the North Pacific, south of Haida Gwaii into the British Columbia coastline. And then finally at 3,000 feet, relatively light winds out over the Gulf in this weak circulation. We do find a belt of winds upwards of 35 to 45 knots, mainly from Haida Gwaii, British Columbia coast down into the North Pacific. Back to the west, we have the circulation around this weak low pressure central Aleutian. So on the north side of it, look for southeasterly winds 35 to maybe 40, locally 45 knots. And then here coming down through the Bering Strait, maybe and Seward Peninsula, maybe some northeasterly winds up to 30 knots as that colder air begins to sink southward. So we do anticipate up along the Chukchi Sea coast, especially Lisburn Peninsula to maybe the north side of the Seward Peninsula vicinity and east of Shishmaref. Surface to 4,000 feet, moderate turbulence possible there on Monday. A little pocket of moderate turbulence also possible in through the central eastern Aleutians, surface to 3,000 feet, and then stepping out of the way, there could be an isolated pocket of moderate turbulence. Central, maybe southern panhandle, surface to 6,000 feet on Monday.